Okay guys, hi, Cliff here. Now one of my subscribers asked me how I mount my Mobius cameras on my aeroplanes, so I'll show you. Right, what I've got here is a selection of mounts I use. First of all, Mobius camera looks like this. This is the one with the fisheye lens, C-type lens. Quick word about these. I always put a little bit of black tape over the back of the SD card, having one flicked out once with an impact. I've lost lots of good footage, so a little bit of tape over that just for security. Another thing you can put on, you can open the camera up and thread a little lanyard through the back of the camera. Good security measure as well, as long as you use it, of course. Right, I've got a selection of mounts here. Let's start with this one. It's a curious looking mount. This one I designed to sit between the outward struts on one of my biplanes. The camera sits against this little piece of foam, which helps it to stop sliding as well. I like to spray my mounts matte black, by the way, just for a bit of continuity, if you like. So the Mobius camera just fits under the rubber band. I usually use 2 rubber bands for security. Let's just turn that camera off. And this particular one sat between, I will put the rubber band around the strut like that. So my finger's the strut, and each end of the band just looped onto one of the hooks each side. Again, you can vary the length of the band. You can either double it up or single it up. That went down through a strut, and I had a little cage of rubber bands holding the camera in place, which worked really well, as you can see from this piece of film. Now moving on, you just design mounts as you need them. Useful mount, just a wedge, balsa wood, everything's balsa wood. That was a bit of ply actually. Balsa wood mount. Designed at an angle just so as it allowed me to aim the camera down or up, or if I was on a slopey wingtip I can aim it more horizontal. Just a useful bit of balsa wood shape to have. Another one I did, this one's got a curve in it, designed to sit over the top of a fuselage, curved, again rubber banded on, and then a band around the whole lot to hold it in place on the fuselage. Obviously you can turn it backwards or forwards. If you can't get a band on, say you're at the back of a fuselage, although this particular model of course is flat anyway, but you might want to put a little wedge up under this edge. Maybe that's too low, maybe it's not. Usually is, that would be too low, it'd pick up too much of the fuselage. So it'd be good to have it up on just a standard bit of balsa. Probably you could probably use that, although it's angled, just to lift off the fuselage a bit. And obviously difficult to get a band around there, so you could use a bit of electrical tape just to hold it on. Make sure your film is well adhered, because it'll pull it off when you pull this off. A little tip you can do is just stick it to your trouser leg, and it takes off a lot of the tackiness, so when you pull it off it won't do any damage. But of course as soon as you go around to stick it back onto itself, it can be full tack again, because that bit's not sticking to the fuselage. Useful stuff to have in your kit, whatever. Anyway, and these are little clips that you get in your likes of your GoPro copies, or GoPro itself. Anyway, it's a universal mounting kit. I use this. I'll show you how I use this. I use this, and then that whole piece of kit mounts under the peak of my cap like that. It's not going to go anywhere, and it gives me a good shot. You might have to experiment with different caps depending on the angle of the peak. I tend to just put it underneath and then just pull the hat back off my head a little bit, and that holds it at the right angle. You might want to experiment with that, otherwise you'll end up filming ground or sky and not your model. But that works very well. Another of course, with your Mobius you get this little mounting bracket, which is quite a useful thing because it's got a threaded bar in the bottom, and for that I'll show you what I use that for. You can screw that onto a camera tripod, of course. Something I take up the field with me is this spike, and this is got a little camera. It's a monopole as opposed to a tripod. It's just easier to carry, it's lighter, and it breaks down into sections if I need it. And that'll just screw on the top, and I can mount my Mobius on that. And of course we'll have a ball in the end. I can get it at the exact angle I want. I can also mount my camera, my phone camera, onto that one, which keeps it out of the grass as well. But I've got this little curious mount I've made up. This is a standard fit-in you get in a mounting kit, but this particular one is designed to slot into a tube right into the top of one of my models. It goes down, so I can obviously move it right and left, up and down to get the angle right, because it's ball mounted, you see. Very useful little bracket, but that is designed particularly for one glider, and it just slides right down through the top of the wing into a tube. So useful to use these little mounts with the threaded bar in the bottom. Another interesting one I've got here is this little piece of balsa wood. The camera fits in there like that, and I place a rubber band around. I'll show you the pole. I've got a 4-meter fiberglass pole for one of these flag type, these flags that you see flying at various venues. So this is designed to sit at the top of the pole, put the rubber band over, pull it over like that, and I'll probably use 2 rubber bands actually to stop it sliding. See what you can do with rubber bands like that. So in fact I put the camera in backwards and it's pointing up, but you get the idea. So that would be pointing down at me, and I can put that anything up to 4 meters off the ground. How do I fix the pole? Well, unless you've got a big weight that you can slide it into, or a big hole you can slide it into, I just use a bungee cord and bungee it to a post, a fence post. The only problem with this is I only just used it and it tends to wobble in the wind slightly, so I intend to use 3 guy wires. It should be enough just to hold it rigid, and I can peg those into the ground. It takes a minute to set this stuff up, but the end result is really worth it. If you're talking to a camera on top of the pole, you're not going to hear yourself speaking, so I bought a pair of Rode wireless mics. Again, not a cheap bit of kit, but I have got a cheaper mic which is a nuisance because you've got 4 or 5 meter wire and you're always tripping over it. So I bought these Rode mics. They're wireless, but you've got the cat's foot on the end, and that allows you to talk just like this in quite a wind, but you don't get the wind buffeting sound. So it was a nice little Christmas present to myself. So basically, make your camera mounts out of balsa wood. They're all balsa wood. Well, it's not, obviously. Balsa wood, balsa wood. This one, by the way, the angle is designed to fit into the dihedral on top of the model, and then the camera itself will be held in by the cross bands of the wing. Actually, the camera itself will be held in by popping the wing mount bands through the bottom like that, and then they'll go over the dowel each side, and the camera will be mounted. It can't go anywhere because it's banded on the bands. So that should be an interesting video, because I want to video the ocean breeze here. I want a camera mounted backwards so as we can see the all flying tail and all flying rudder, all flying tail. Should look really good. interesting anyway. So let's have a look. Last but by no means least is the, here I am illustrating it, hopefully filming, looks like I'm pointing at you. This mount, this is my mount which I use for video in here actually, but I could also use it out in the field because I can angle it down like that, at any angle actually I choose. I can rotate it or turn it like that manually, so I've got full control over it. I can also, if I want this particular mount, I can close it down to a hand mount like that, angle it like that, and I've got a hand mount. I can talk to you guys like that if I want to, and it's quite a nice mount. I haven't used it handheld much to be honest, but that facility's there. This whole device cost, I believe it's around £5, so it's only plastic. It's yeah, it was a bit of a gamble if it was any good, but it has turned out to be really good, so very pleased with that little mount. Check one out on eBay if you want to look for it. So I can, as you know, the camera on these mobile phones is really good, so I'll use it for in here, and I'll also use it if I'm out in the field sometimes, because if you're standing away from your model and you want a shot of you launching it, this is the one to use, unless you've got an assistant with you of course. So that's my selection of camera mounts that I've used so far. The balsa wood, various mounts that you get, well that's the only ones I've really used, which is made already. Okay, and there's one more I forgot to mention, the 2-axis mount I bought on eBay. Again, really cheap, £6, something like that. 2-axis, and I mounted that one in the Bird of Time. I bought that one purely for the Bird of Time actually, and I've designed a hatch where it slides into on the front, so it means I can look right and left, look down at the view and back up and rotate. So cheap as chips, a nice little mount. Then like all the others, just rubber bands on the top, the Mobius just, so there look, rubber bands on the top, the Mobius just slips in like that and looks right and left, up and down. Get yourself a Mobius or any other little cameras. You've got the GoPros, you've got the GoPro lookalikes, which are obviously a lot cheaper, and various little cube cameras. They all do similar things, but you can mount them all the same way. I tend to use rubber bands. I like rubber bands, and a little bit of PVC tape if necessary. And there's one last camera mount I haven't shown you, and that's the rotating servo in the cockpit. So I just put the Mobius on there with a couple of elastic bands. There's the servo underneath. You can see the mount. It's just screwed and glued to a thick piece of balsa, and then that just rotates through the arc of the servo, and then when I'm ready I'll just turn that around, film this side. I have had a fully rotating servo on that, 360 degrees, but you never know where it's going to stop. Sometimes you get the headrest behind, so half the time you get decent video out of it, but on this one, just a standard servo, full swing and look around. I tend to turn it into the bank when I bank, which seems to have a pretty good effect. That's one last little camera mount I thought I'd show you because it's easy to do and is really effective as well. So that's it. That's all my camera mounts. Thanks for watching. Hit the little like button if you've gained some knowledge from this, and if you're not a subscriber and you want to follow my channel, hit the little subscribe button below as well, and check out my other videos. So thanks for looking in, and see you either on the slope, up at the patch, or indoors at the park, wherever I'll be flying one of my models. Thanks guys, bye.